Okay, welcome to the August committee meetings. I'll turn it over to Acting Chair Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sylvette, will you please take a roll?
John Hayes, Paul Anthony,
Here.
Robert Brooks, Ricky Gower,
Here.
Kevin Lott, Jeannie McNeil,
Here.
Glenn Reedman.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Any public comment?
Not at this time, sir.
All right, we need to approve the meeting minutes from June 25th, 2026. I need a motion to approve.
Motion.
Move.
Jeannie, thank you. Any questions on the motion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, Todd, if you please.
Okay. Good morning, all. Haven't seen you all in a while.
Morning.
I was just saying to Mike, whenever we don't have a meeting, it seems like we have record-breaking traffic. I don't know why. I don't know, maybe we should have less meetings. All right. Go over traffic. I kind of got that little bit of intro there. We had our best 2 months of traffic on record. June and July. June was our best month of traffic, and then we beat it in July. So we had 2 really good months as far as traffic is concerned. And actually, at this point, we are at our best point year to date through 7 months. We are a little bit ahead of 2004. I know, let me go back there for a minute.
Yeah, go back there.
I know we talked about
The legacy and charters.
legacy and charters, and I know John had some questions, and I know Darren has a few answers. So just talking about there, you can see our aircraft traffic is obviously pretty good. And anything in green here on this chart means that's the best in this time period. So over from 2020 to 2026, you can see our best legacy traffic on here is 2022. And if you go back even further, it's a little bit better. So I know we had some early conversations. So I'll let Darren talk about some of our legacy stuff as far as where we are.
Okay.
Sure. So I know, I guess, Todd had passed on just asking a little bit about the difference between legacy 2019 till today and what we think that's going to go back to 2019 numbers. So when I looked at it, the real difference is 2 things really that puts the legacy a little lower. Is we lost the Detroit service during the pandemic on Delta. We do expect and continue to hear from Delta that will return, just not a commitment to a time frame of when it's going to return. So we do continue to talk about that with them all the time, for sure. The other sort of big change was our Charlotte service. So back in 2019, we had 3 daily flights to Charlotte. Today we have 2. So that's another sort of big delta. And that really, a lot of what's driving that is the success of the bus to Philly. So, I mean, it's kind of, we're a victim of our own success there. It's certainly, we have so much good connectivity into Philly, into the American network. They've kind of cut back a little bit on the Charlotte service because they, financially, it's a lot less expensive to run a bus than it is to run an airplane. So that's really what it is. So, I mean, do we think we'll see, like I said, I do expect that at some point we'll see Detroit back. I do think it's realistic to think at some point we'll see at least additional seats to Charlotte, whether it's a 3rd flight or larger aircraft. I do think, as we continue to do well on that route, we could potentially see that increase. So,
Any other questions?
Just an observation, I guess, like, we talk about pre-pandemic, but fine, but the past 4 years and including this year, it's been really flat. Right, 261,000 to 247 now, so that kind of just sets that trend for us, right? Like, talking about flights coming back, but how many seats is that really going to add for us?
Yeah,
I mean, it just seems like 5 years going now, it's really flat.
Yeah, and I think that's not unexpected from us that the legacy carriers aren't going to continue to grow a ton of seats here. I mean, I think every time we've kind of done our updates or when we've had our consultant to do updates, our growth opportunity is low-cost service here. We're going to continue to be important to the legacy carriers. I think we'll continue to have good legacy service, but there's not a lot of places for them to grow really, other than to increase seats. And the only way they increase seats on these routes is if seats are full. Airplanes are full, and our load factors are decent on most of our routes, but they're not bursting at the seams. I mean, I think that's the one thing we try and get out to the public all the time. You want to see more service, use the service we have. That's a very important piece of this. There was a time when airlines would throw a whole lot of capacity into markets to get market share. They've gotten way smarter than that over the last 10 years or so to realize that they put capacity in when capacity is needed, not just so they can be the biggest carrier in the market.
Right, so you talk about your consultants forecasting, they're just forecasting that's gonna remain flat.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, limited growth, I
Okay.
mean, here.
Yeah, right,
Yeah,
right.
but I don't think you're gonna see, you know, there are a couple things that we always look at. There's some possibilities of other hubs to look at, but they're more probably longer range goals and more difficult to achieve, you know, things like Dallas service or even potentially back to Dallas on United, things like that. So there are some possibilities out there, but I think what we have, we're serving their hubs that they need us to serve right now. They're getting connectivity through the hubs. They're happy with what they have right now. It's getting people into their systems. That's their goal from an airport like ours.
I saw Ann had her hand up.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I didn't know.
No,
if
go
you-
ahead, that's fine.
I don't know what her, Ann, did you have a question?
I did. Just a quick question. So I see what Paul's saying, but if we add the American bus seats on as if those are plane seats, our trend is up. So is that fair to do that, or is that unreasonable to consider that?
Yeah, I mean, at this
Makes
point,
sense.
yeah, no, that's a great question. At this point, you know, we can't count our bus passengers. The FAA doesn't count those into our official enplanement or deplanement counts. There's a chance that we can do that on a test basis for a few airports going into the future, but that's a temporary measure. So we're still separating those for purposes of tracking because officially the definition doesn't let us do capture those counts
But
inside
I
of
think
the
Ann's
enplanement.
point is the number of people coming
The number
through
of
the
passengers.
airport, number of passengers
Yeah.
is not flat. It's actually, it is going up if you add the buses into,
That's correct.
I think that's what Ann's point is.
I'm gonna disagree with all of
That's
you.
my point. Thank you for saying it.
Actually, I'm gonna disagree. That's not actually correct. These numbers here include the bus. If you look at them, they're the same numbers. You have aircraft and bus. If you look at Allegiant and Elite Legacy and Carrier, so
Okay.
that 247 does already include the bus.
Okay.
So you can't count it twice.
Okay.
And you have to
So-
remember, we did have
Thank
air
you.
service to Philly back in
Right, but I mean, what,
2019.
Yeah.
she was just talking about the counts
No,
themselves.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. So when you look at that, the bus service has basically replaced that air service that we previously had to Philly, you know, and actually increased from what we did up there a bit.
And this highlights a lot of the things we talk about when we compare ourselves to our peers. If we didn't have the growth of Allegiant, our legacy would be driving our traffic and that would be down
Mhm.
more. So that's kind of what's kind of taking
Yeah.
us to the next level.
Okay.
So. Any, yes, go ahead.
Real quick. I mean, if you look at our bus, that's a fifth of our legacy and charters. Do we know where those people are flying to, their destination? When we think about hubs that we're gonna add or wanna add with those legacy carriers, I mean, that's a significant amount of traffic on the bus. Why couldn't we, you know, add that hub wherever the majority of those people are going? Is it Detroit? Is it Chicago?
I'll let Darren answer
We
that.
do look at that when we talk to airlines and stuff. I mean, you don't find it, there's no like sort of glaring where it's like, hey, 30% of these folks are all heading for the same place, you know, so. But it's stuff we look at. So when we talk to airlines, a lot of what we talk about is where people originating from here do ultimately end up. So we do look at adding new destinations and look into those underserved markets. But there's not, like I said, there's not one right now that you can point at and go, we've got a massive amount of people from the valley that are all going to Dallas daily, you know, that we've got 50 people a day going to Dallas, that it would make sense to add a flight. So, but we definitely look at that.
If something happens to Allegiant, we're in trouble. So I think we just need to keep looking and thinking about adding wherever the majority of those people are going, trying to figure that out and adding that.
Any more questions on this slide? We're rolling on this one.
Yeah, we were.
All righty. Comparing us, then actually, we have our updated benchmarking, and this is all airports, and I'll talk about some of our changes in our peers. But you can see our throughput is doing much better than all airports as an average, and the same thing with our seats. We're doing pretty good compared to the overall average of all our airports. This is our old peers that we were using before. We made some slight adjustments to them. And you can see on this one, our peer average like a -7 on throughput and a -6 on seats. And you can see where our numbers up in the top 3 there. You can kind of see it on the chart there. But then, you know, this is a peer reset, as I mentioned a little earlier. We are swapping out 3 that were in the old ones to kind of get a better peer group. Some of these have some Allegiant, significant Allegiant base as far as traffic, so you can kind of see why we wanted to include them. Some of them are closer to metro areas like Flint, and even South Bend. You can see they're closer to other bigger airports, which kind of makes them a really good peer group for us. That's why we added them in. And then this is the new peers, and you can kind of see the old peer and the new peer average to kind of out the top there. The new peer average is a little bit more than 1 for throughput versus the -7, and the new peer average is a +3 versus, -6. So, and we dropped down a little bit kind of in the middle there, without some of those big variables that were throwing off some of our numbers. And then this is, we talked about updating our peers, and we give this is our employments, comparing it to, this is our prior peers. So you can see the average of those 10 that we have in there was 446. Now our 533 does include the bus. So, but you can go down to the bottom there and you can see that we're pretty close to the average of 549. So it kind of gives us a better marking to kind of get us, comparing ourselves. It's hard to get exact peers because no two airports are exactly the same, but get a group that's a little bit more representative of us. And then this is the cost per employment. And this is actually what the airlines pay. So when we talk about, it's not our cost, that's a separate calculation. It's certainly not $20 per employment, but this is what we charge them and this is what they look at. So you look at our charge there, this is what we talk about all the time. We're a little bit less than $20 in cost per plane passengers, and that's the matrix that the airlines use. So when they come in and say, hey, your costs are high, they're saying your costs are about $20 per plane passenger compared to the average of a little less than 11 there. So we do our best to kind of manage that, but some of it is in the number of FTEs that we have. And then here you can kind of see what's going on here, and some of the updated versus our, go ahead.
What's FTE?
Oh, good question. Sorry, I speak FTE now, and everybody gets lost. Sorry about that. Full-time equivalent.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you for that. Sometimes I go too fast. So because we have, and that's a great question to ask, because we have so many part-time employees, we're like almost like a 50-50 mix.
Okay.
So you almost have to compare a 40-hour person to kind of do it average-wise. Otherwise, it gets kind of wonky as far as comparison. So FTE is full-time equivalent. Thank you for asking that question. Great question. I talk about it, I'm like, hey, I'm 50, and everybody, I assume everybody knows what I'm talking about, but they're like, hey, what's that? So you can see there, we had at last year, we had 240, and the average of folks down here is 85 on the prior and 87 on the updated numbers. And again, this is where we talk about, we have great service. Nobody argues about our service. We do a great job. Connie, Steve, all of our folks in their departments do a great job. Nobody wants to pay for it. So that's our challenge, trying to balance the service with the cost. Because we say, hey, we deliver great service, but they'll say, well, your costs are high, like from the other sheet. I know you look like you're about to answer the question.
No, I think we talked about this before, and I don't remember which airports. They use county, fire and police or city
Yes,
or
so that
something,
helps
so
out a
that
lot.
impacts
Yes,
that way, right?
Atlantic City.
Yes.
Is it? But are the other ones subsidized somehow?
Yes, they are. Yes, exactly.
How are they subsidized? I'm just curious on the funding.
Well, depending on how it's set up, I mean, some of them are like, for example, Philly is part of Philadelphia County. So they're all part of together. So there's a subsidy in there just because they're part of the county. And then some things they're not paying for. If they get their own police, their own fire, obviously they're not coming out of their operating budget, and that's not a cost they have to pass on. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was thinking about the smaller airports like Appleton,
I bet.
which is our peer. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
so,
Yeah, we can drill down on some.
yeah,
of them.
I'm just curious how they're funded.
But it's a lot of little things. It could be custodial. It could be a lot of things that we do in-house that they're not doing. I mean, we do pretty much all of our stuff in
Right.
here.
Yeah, we're the ground handling agent.
Yeah, we do everything. So if you, and then Tom and I did a little exercise where we took out some of the things that are kind of subsidized, and we took out about 100 easily over. It was like 120, I think. And we're just like, hey, these are kind of like standardly set out. You take out this, 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 and this, and you get down to their number, but we're doing them in-house.
Right. Okay. And the airlines don't want to hear that, though.
I mean,
Right.
well,
It
it's
doesn't matter to
twofold. If we don't deliver great service, they'll let us know.
Yeah.
And if our costs are too high, they'll let us know. So it's a balancing act.
I'll follow up to that.
Yes.
So
these ones that are subsidized, they're not, like, we're doing them in-house. They're not paying a third party to do them, like, they also have they have to have a cost involved somehow, right?
Some of them, but some like, you know, police and some of those things might not have.
Just through the county, but for like maintenance and different things that you guys are
Correct.
talking about, like, even if you're hiring a third party, there's still a cost.
There's still
So you
cost,
can't just
but
take it
it's-
out completely.
Correct, but it's not, you know, obviously outsource, you're going to the lowest bidder versus in-house where you gotta take care of your folks a little bit more.
Understand.
So
No, that's a great point.
So your question is the vendor expense included in their
Yes.
prices? Is that required?
It would
Well,
be.
when they said like you took out, whatever, 6 things, whatever number you used of things that were subsidized, but if you just zero all of them out, that's not a true number because they are paying something for those by the
Correct.
third party.
Correct.
Right? So
And
you
that's
gotta
in their-
factor something.
That's in
in
their
their
costs,
Right.
but it's not in their FTE count, because
Gotcha.
they're not their direct employees.
Understand.
Yes.
Makes sense. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, we're on a roll of questions.
I think you did I just thought that was really interesting there, if those are all peer airports, but I think you did a good job explaining like the why, because we certainly stick out there. Do you, are you in touch with these peer airports on a fairly regular basis? Like, is there like, I guess what I'm trying to ask is like, do you compare notes and do people say to you, wow, you know, or like, what's the better way to approach it? I think from a service standpoint, probably makes a difference. I'm just curious.
Yeah, we do stay in touch with a lot of these peers just to find out
Yeah.
how they do things. Some
Mhm.
of them obviously are in state we talk to or see a lot. Some are close by.
Yeah.
But some are not. So I know, Darren's office, their service conferences, a lot of those airports are represented. So.
Mhm.
But it is a lot, as Tom indicated, there is a lot of connectivity, particularly at some of these conferences where we connect with folks. Hey, how are you doing it? How are we doing it? So we try to build a better mousetrap, learn how other folks are doing it. But some of these folks are our direct competition,
Right.
so we don't have
Yeah.
exact, those same conversations with some of those folks.
Do you find that a lot, try to like model what's happening here or taking best practices here?
Yeah, I mean, I just got a call last week from an airport that's not on this list asking us about some of the stuff that we do.
Yeah,
They wanted to kind of model some things that we're doing.
yeah, that's interesting, yeah.
Which is great. But again, you've seen one airport. The saying in the industry is you've seen one airport because everybody is a little bit different based on their region, their environment, service they have, right? So it all kind of goes into the stew. So, but it's just, I think it's good to understand when we look at our peers. It's good to see how do we benchmark. What are we doing that's similar? What's different? And so it just kind of level sets things that we all understand, because we do this every day, but it's good for the board to also understand it.
Yeah. And also some of these are, as Tom indicated, some of these are things that we don't have any control over. I mean, let's face it, airports are driven by the economy, particularly our folks. So if the economy goes down, what's the first thing that goes out the window is travel. So that's something we're always conscious of because that's nothing we have control over. So if the economy starts going down and people aren't traveling like the pandemic, we just have to kind of hunker down and try to survive until the next peak to go along. So it's the nature of the beast. All right. We had a pretty good month of June. See there, we were positive versus budget, but again, it's revenue driven, and a lot of our positive revenue is because we thought we were further along in the parking. So we thought there'd be some construction, some disruption to some of those folks coming in and out of here. We're not, so that's actually helping us out. But at some point, we're going to feel the effects of, I'm not going there right now because they're doing construction on that, outside. So we don't know what that impact's going to be, but we know it's going to have some impact. So obviously, we did pretty well. But a lot of it, I always get excited when it's revenue based because you can't cut your way to success. So when revenue's up, it gives us something to be excited about. Same thing for July. Again, we had record month, and obviously, some of our stuff's not direct, but a lot of our revenues, particularly parking and some of the other stuff, is tied into overall throughput through the airport. So if more folks are coming here, more folks are parking here, more folks are using concessions, more folks are using, some of our vendors that we get a percentage of or some of those things, it works for us. It works the other way when they're not coming in here. again, revenue based, something to feel excited about. You see it there, 362 out of that variance is because of revenue, not because we're cutting expenses. So that's what you feel, because there's only so much we can cut. And then this is kind of our year to date, again, doing pretty well. This bodes well for us as we start talking about financing, because obviously, budgets give us some bandwidth, and we try to work with some of these things. But if we were at that number, to be able to finance some of our stuff would be a little difficult. So the fact that we're higher than that is a better conversation with the airports. Excuse me, with the banks. And you can see there, even because on net income, that's why I got a little emotional when we don't have CARES anymore. You can see we went from 4.4 with CARES to, even though we're doing really well, to 2.6 without. So I miss CARES. Just so you know, I miss it. Somebody have some tissues for me? I don't know. Okay. This is our variances. Again, that's part of the reason we're doing the garage. That number one up there, that's our number one, where folks pay us directly, not going to anyone else other than we get some from the leases. But the top two there, actually top three, are the folks that pay us directly. If somebody's leasing, they're paying us. When somebody is coming in the park, they're paying us. Some of these other ones are somewhat secondary. We're getting it through a third party, so we're kind of getting it after the fact. But you can see we're doing pretty good there, and it kind of goes back to what we talked about there on some of the rates. You can see it there on the terminal. That's the number one that is subsidized. Because we've got cargo on airfield, that doesn't have to be subsidized as much. But terminal is the one we argue about the most. The most. Because obviously the cargo folks are using the terminal. So that is the biggest conversation we have, every rates and charges about the terminal. And then breaking down the biggest variances, this is kind of year to date. I know John had asked about depreciation, and I'll bring that up. So that depreciation is year to date. That's when an asset is actually fixed. So once that asset goes into service, we start depreciation. So that year to date variance will stay. It's just when we put those assets in service, then the monthly number will go up at that point. So the clock will start ticking later, just because the asset hasn't been put in place. And most of that is around the runway, just the timing of finishing it. So you start depreciating once the asset is completed. And then the same amount of depreciation is just, you don't start the clock until it's actually finished. So because we're still working on the runway, that's part of the reason you have that depreciation variance there. And then breaking down our numbers here, personnel versus non-personnel, we do this every month. And our FTEs, pretty close to where we are. We took out the seasonal, you can kind of see we're pretty much right on. There's some variances in the department year to date, and they change. And then this is our cash. There's some minor changes there on this part of it. The biggest change is always the timing of our capital from month to month, and that has the biggest impact on cash. Break it down here, you can see down through December that we're anticipating to be about 100 days over as far as cash versus budgeted. Some of the things we talked about with some of the projects being delayed and some of the better operating results are the reason we're in that position at this point. And then this is kind of the updated cash. And it's a little bit busy, but you can see the old peers, new peers. So for 2025, the new peer average was 300. The old peer for 2024 was 302. But you can see the old peer is for 2024 was the new peer for 2024 was 356. So everybody's cash is going down. It's just you're starting from a different point. Just because now everybody's losing CARES, so the cash is starting to come down because of that. And then this is I know that's on the next thing on the list. I'll kind of go through there. I know talking longer than Mike says he likes to break his record, so I'm working on it. This is just where we project out, conservative projection for where we are, just 7 months actual, projecting out. If we come in at budget for the rest of the year, this is kind of where we think we'll be in a pretty good place at this point. Any questions? And we had a lot of questions in the middle, which was great, because it's good to get them in real time.
All right, finished done? All right. We need a motion to accept the financial statements for June 2026 and July 2026. Already moved. Second? Thank you. Any questions on the motion? All right, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And we already went over the projection. The only thing we have to do is go into exec session if you want to talk about it.
Well, discussion item.
We already did the projection.
Okay.
Bond stuff in exec session.
Yeah, but are we doing exec under somebody else's committee?
But this one, because Bill's here, it's probably easier. That way he's not into some of the other ones. This will be a quick one.
Okay. I need a motion to go into executive session. Thank you, Eric.
Discussion is needed. So.
Yeah, thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
As long as you have the motion and second, you can do it.
Yep, thank you.
Colin? We're good. Thank you.
We're back.
Okay. The board held a closed session for informational purposes relating to financial matters. During the session, no deliberations, vote taking, or decisions were made.
All right. Thank you, Elizabeth. All right, next item is new business. Is there any new business from the committee?
Thanks, Bill.
All right, seeing none, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We're adjourned. Thank you, Glenn.
Okay. Do we need to take a break or is everybody good?
I just need to, after I had coffee, just, and it's,
We'll just take a 5-minute break
thank you.
before we start the executive committee meeting.
Doghouse now.
Okay, thank you. I'll call the executive committee of the Lehigh Northampton Airport Authority to order. Sylvette, will you please call the roll?
Mike Starshik,
Here.
Frank Fasciano,
Present.
Paul Anthony,
Here.
Justin Grimshaw,
Here.
Robert Brooks, Glenn Reedman. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Sylvette. Do we have any public comment?
Not at this time, sir.
Okay, do we have a motion for the approval of the meeting minutes of June 25th?
Moved.
Glenn Rube, second.
I'll second.
Justin, any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We need to do the approval of the Florio, Perucci, Steinhardt, Capelli, and Tipton LLC invoices for July. Is there a motion for that?
Motion.
Glenn, second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Justin, thank you. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We have Steve is going to be doing an update on the Operations and Safety Department. Steve,
Thank you, Mr.
turn it
Chair.
over to you.
Yep, thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I'm going to apologize in advance. My PowerPoint's nowhere near as comprehensive as Todd's. Wow. I'll try and.
No apology needed.
That means it's short, right?
So we always talk about, just to begin with, our 139 inspection. We did that in July 7th through the 10th this year. Really, it's the FAA's opportunity to come in and look at our processes. As part of our commercial air service, we are required to maintain the standards that the FAA outlines and is outlined in our airport certification manual. So it's all our processes that we must do to maintain a safe airport for commercial air carrier operations. But we look at pretty much everything on the airfield, light signs, markings. We go out during the day, at night. We look at our airfield construction projects. So everything we're doing with runway, taxiway work, the FAA is looking at how we're managing those projects, all of our training. So not only our fire department, but all of the training we do for anybody that has duties. So all of our maintenance department, our wildlife hazard management training, our driver training. So they're pretty, when they come in and look at our driver training, they actually look at other tenants' drivers. And they're, for some reason, pretty focused on FAA drivers here at the airport. They want to make sure that we're making our tenants do the required training. We look at our airport emergency plan and our self-inspection program. So we're always up to the challenge. This year, our inspector brought in his inspector. So someone from headquarters came in with our inspector to monitor what our inspector was doing. So that ensured a very thorough inspection on the FAA's part. So as part of the inspection, we did discover several minor discrepancies, and mostly related to training and construction that were corrected as by the end of the inspection, and then we just finished up redoing some ARF training for some different modules that they were talking about. So once again, examples of minor stuff. One of the fuel trucks had a little piece of missing safety wire there on the brake override switch, so we corrected that immediately. Out in construction, we were where we had the Alpha Bravo intersection closed, pretty well closed with barricades and lighted barricades. But when we went out there at night, we realized we missed a bunch of signs. And so once we were done obscuring all that stuff, the intersection looked like that. So we were able to get that done that night or in the next day. ARF training was stuff we were doing. So we had some FLIR, forward-looking infrared training we were doing, and ballistic recovery parachute training, but we didn't have it as an individual module in their monthly or annual training. So we were doing it under a different category. So they had to shift us around and kind of rebuild that training program. And then this was the best part. So all of our airfield signage needs to have frangible bases. So if an aircraft hits it, it breaks. It doesn't cause damage to the airplane. But this sign gets blown over frequently by 767s when they're turning around. So it's been substantially rebuilt. And it looks like a roll cage from a NASCAR race car. So we did discuss that. We're going to rebuild that thing to make it a little more frangible. So a great inspection this year. We were happy to meet the gentleman from headquarters because he does a lot of the advisory circulars that we have to comply with. So he's part of that development team, and it was getting good insight as to how those are developed. The other thing we're really proud of, we did in August 7th, was our annual airport emergency plan review and tabletop exercise. This is where we, on an annual basis, are required to meet with our mutual aid responders. So we put together a program. This year we did this during the day, so 9:30 in the morning till 2:30 p.m. Had a great attendance from 103 participants from 43 different agencies, federal, state, local, state police, FBI, the emergency management teams from Lehigh and Northampton counties. So we use this exercise to review what our airport emergency plan states, but also then to exercise the plan so everybody gets the opportunity to go through a mock disaster in a low stress environment. You can see some of the executive staff here were part of our airport EOC, but first responders, our police, fire, our police ops. I see Collins over there, public information, airline representatives, but just a great way to work through an exercise and develop after action plans or find areas where we can improve. So it's always great to run through that stuff. And then our full-scale exercise is in April of 27th. So that's when we'll get the whole team outside at the training aircraft and have a mock incident here at the airport. Tom always does a great job telling all the events we're doing as part of his director's report. I don't mean to step on your toes, Tom, but polo event the 13th, dock, and the P-51 gunfighter here on the 17th, and then the Special Olympics plane pool. What I really wanted to focus on is all the coordination these events have to do with our local, state, and federal agencies. So when we have the plane pool, we actually have to provide a proposal to TSA that says, hey, we're gonna have 1,000 people here on our cargo apron Saturday morning. This is the methods that we're going to do to contain these folks. Same thing with polo. We have to coordinate with PennDOT and get approval with the Bureau of Aviation. Forks Township provides the permittee, their permit to have an event in Forks Township. And even the gunfighter, which is gonna sit right here on the Hangar 10 apron and pretty small footprint. We actually have to get approval from TSA for that type of event too. So it's a pretty big lift. We're happy to do this stuff publicly, but on the back end, our teams are working, developing graphics and procedures to handle these folks from outside the fence. Really happy to report on our new equipment. So as we talked about before, we did get a state grant for $1 million for a fire truck. We actually applied for federal grants for an additional fire truck and 3 pieces of snow equipment. So these are the graphic layouts of our ordered vehicles. We just approved these. And then just manufacturer's photos of what we've ordered. So we've ordered a new broom, a snow blower, and a plow truck with a spreader on the back.
Yeah, when do you expect to get the fire equipment?
Our equipment should be in production mid-next year, here by the end of 27.
Okay, does take a while, obviously.
Oh, yeah, so we
build those.
almost 500 days. So we just finished up the design. This was a coordinated effort with the ARF team to develop like what we want in all the bins, how we want the truck set up. So we met with the ARF lieutenants and chief, ran through like a 4-hour session developing this stuff. Really the same thing we did with even the snow equipment. So
Yeah, we just usually hear about fire equipment taking such a long time.
Yeah.
To get manufactured. Well, get here.
even the snow equipment's 500 days. So
Really?
well, all of this equipment we're hoping will be here by the end of 27.
Who's the manufacturer for the fire truck?
Those are Rosenbauer out of Minnesota. And these are MB. Where's MB located? It might be Wisconsin, I'm not sure. So yeah, this is an exciting purchase. Thankfully, we were able to get this going this year. And then obviously, as we head into the fall season, Connie always talks about the icing, but we're here starting along with our maintenance training. So we do some ride-alongs during probably October timeframe to get the group out on the airfield, running in formation, helping to get ATC coordinated in with our movements. We do ops officers do some training because they do all the field inspections and reporting on the conditions for our tenants and stakeholders. And then we do meet with our stakeholders in October with our snow. I know John's not here today, but normally he asks what we think the weather's going to be. I don't know.
He asks a lot.
Yeah. So it's super El Nino. I'm seeing flip the temperatures, but does anybody believe this? I'm not sure. Supposed to be looking at a warmer trend, but what they'll tell you, these trendings, although it's a bright orange and going to be above, they're talking 2 or 3 degrees from normal or 2 to 5 degrees from normal. So it's not like a 60-degree winter average instead of a 25.
Ice instead of snow.
Yeah, just ice instead of snow. Which Todd knows that takes a whole heck of a lot longer to clean up off the airfield than just 2 inches of dry powder. And our seasonal outlook is a little bit damper. So. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Steve? Thank you, Steve, and congratulations on a good inspection. Thank you.
Yeah, I do want to say I had an outbrief with the FAA inspector who pulled me aside and really complimented the team all across the board, just how impressed they were with what we're doing. So I was very pleased and happy. Of course, not surprised, but also it's great to hear that from somebody stepping in from outside the organization.
We always try to be collaborative with that type of thing, so we're not that aggressive fight over some of this stuff. So.
It's better to be cooperative rather than confrontational when it comes to that kind of thing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any new business? The only thing I want to mention is that there's a copy of the annual report over on the table by the door. Please feel free to grab one on your way out. It's a really well done report again this year. So thank you, Colin and the team, for putting it all together. Have a motion to adjourn executive committee. Second. We're adjourned. James, you ready to go to work on business?
Sure. Call the business committee meeting to order.
Sure. James Irwin.
Here.
Ann Baum. Frank Fasciano. He's on the. Justin Grimshaw.
Here.
Willem McGee.
Here.
Kevin Sturfoss.
Here.
And Jonathan Strauss.
Here.
We have a quorum and no public comment.
All right. Approval of the meeting minutes for June 25 of 2026. Is there a motion? So moved. Jonathan, Bill, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Capital projects update.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. Few minor updates. We'll go through like we typically do every month, but since we didn't meet in July, there's a few things to kind of go through. Where we are in the airfield construction, we're kind of winding down near the end of the year, completing some projects I'll kind of get into, on both sides, basically of 624 and Taxiway Alpha. Package 5 with the runway, really working on punch list items right now, and the final fiber line installation, but all the other pieces were completed at this point, working through closeout documents. And I think, as I mentioned previously, the last 10% of our grants need to be, the receipt of the funds we don't get until we submit the actual closeout. So again, working on those now so we can get the rest of the funding before the end of the year is really the goal. Again, a lot of the work that was done with the new lighting, paving of the on the intersection there off of 624. Package 6 as well is kind of winding down. You can see some of the new geometry. It's a little bit more rigid marks that they have, but you can see the blue taxiway edge lights are actually on pavement now because the shoulders are required for erosion control and some of the larger aircraft that we have.
All LED.
And all LED, even in here looks pretty bright. Obviously, the final markings are a big piece that are done as well. But this one's same thing, working through the punch list, some of the final closeout documents to get that done as well. Taxiway Alpha, that larger section, Alpha and Bravo, was completed August 5th. That one was closed 24 hours for about a month and a half. So that was a big one to get completed. I'm sure the tower's glad to have that section back open. Same thing, working through final markings, punch list, and they're still doing the connectors. So basically on the north side of that runway edge marking, they're doing that work at night because it's in the runway safety area. So a lot of coordination, kind of as Steve mentioned, with his team and ops and making sure we're good to go there. In terms of cargo, I know we had the special meeting last month. We did just hear PennDOT has signed the agreement, and now it's in FHWA's court, so we're waiting on them for that. In terms of Taxiway Delta, which we've talked about previously, looking to start later this year, just working through some of the final township coordination, final documents, and again, as we mentioned, the signature process for the infra grant. So more to come on that, but still.
And just one question on that. That's on the Race Street side?
Yes.
Is that where it's going?
North side. Parking garage, again, just some updates. We did have 2 pre-bid meetings just to make sure folks that couldn't make the first were able to make a second. Had a good attendance at both of them. Bids are due September 24th, so we're about 4 weeks out at this point. And again, we talked a little bit about some of the timing, just trying to work through a lot of the administrative documents between the end of the year now to get started early next year. As again, we talked about before, the only permits we're really waiting on right now, and it's really just the paperwork back and forth, working with council and the township, is some of the land development agreements. So getting that all squared away, obviously, before we start construction.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
How long of a notice did you give for the pre-bid?
So the first one was electronically was about a week, but in the papers it was maybe 4 or 5 days, a little bit delayed. So that's why we did another one, just because we heard back from some folks it was a little bit rushed.
Okay. Yeah, I only saw it maybe 24, max 48 hours before.
Yeah.
And I didn't even see the second one, and I'm usually pretty on that stuff, so.
Okay. Yeah, so.
That's why I was curious, because I heard yesterday there was a second one, and I was like, oh, when did that happen?
Interesting.
Right? So like, I was wondering how many people didn't hear about it.
Yeah, but I know most of the folks that we deal with in the area through PennBid, they get the notifications as well.
Got it.
So we did hear, actually, I think it was a firm from Pittsburgh that said they wanted to come out, had the second pre-bid, and they didn't show up anyways, but it is what it is.
Okay, fair. Thank you.
Getting good interest from GCs.
Yeah, I mean, there were about 35 firms that came. I think about 11 of them were GCs. So some good questions back and forth as well, but time will tell in terms of what submissions are. Which is good. But no, good question. In terms of our roadway work, we talked about previously when we demolished that economy booth. Really what we're working on now, we'll talk more a little bit over the next couple of months, but some of the new equipment we're putting in for the overflow lot, which we had talked about, is getting some of that enabling projects completed before the garage construction is done, since we're taking out about 400 parking spaces in short term. So we're working on that now, again, coordinating with the hotel and the rental cars based on the access there. And then we've started weekly meetings with the new parking equipment company to basically get everything up and running as part of that project. This, just put on here just to kind of close the loop on it, but the Hangar 7 door project was completed. I think it was prior to the last meeting, but we have all the closeout documents. I believe the final payment was actually made earlier this month. So that's been working out, pretty well, talking to Darren and their team. So we're happy that project is long overdue, but completed. So that's good. Moving on to Braden, same thing here. Again, that was wrapped up later in July. Really the only thing we're doing now, which actually I believe they're doing it next week, is reseeding some of the areas that the Conservation District noticed weren't fully established around some of the light bases. And then when they're here, they're going to deliver some of the spare lights that were ordered as part of that as well. So really the last piece is getting all the closeout documents, sending it to the state so we can get our $815,000 reimbursed as part of that, which we always look to do. And then just updating this from before as well, you can kind of see, again, we always look at what we've spent. We're trying to get the grant receipts on. The biggest difference, and we kind of talked about it just from where we are with the Braden edge lighting, you can see we spent almost half, and we're working on, the reimbursement so we can just get everything at once. But that's, again, part of the whole cash flow that we work through. And again, just talking through next year, starting up some of the other taxway alpha pieces. But you can see the ones we talked about are kind of dwindling down at the top for now. I believe that's it. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Need executive session?
Do a litigation
Executive session, Justin,
Motion
second,
second.
Bill, all those in favor? Second.
John.
Jonathan, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, ayes have it.
Good.
The committee held an executive session to discuss pending litigation matters. During the session, no voting, decision-making, or deliberations were held. I think it's just a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?